Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this edition of The Desk, where we look past the headlines and examine the real developments driving our country's direction. Tonight, we turn our attention to a significant development in U.S. political life, one that is generating strong reactions and clear divisions. Picture the leader of the nation encountering serious pushback during what many regard as a cornerstone of our democratic process. That is precisely the situation right now, with the Meidas network spearheading a substantial effort to boycott Donald Trump's upcoming State of the Union speech. The Meidas network has emerged as a key player in an expanding campaign that seeks to contest the standard way the president's yearly address to Congress is received and presented. Instead of treating the occasion as an automatic stage for the White House to speak without challenge, this outlet has moved forward with a clear plan to build resistance through a broad call to avoid watching it. This tactic forms part of a larger plan to cast doubt on the credibility and focus of the official remarks by declining to give them further reach on major progressive outlets. Rather than simply watching and commenting afterward, Meidas has opted for direct action, urging audiences, backers, and partner groups to step away from the live transmission completely. Leaders present the boycott not just as a token move, but as a serious stand against what they see as a leadership style that consistently favors showmanship over real results, misleading claims over openness, and allegiance to individuals over the needs of the country. Through this initiative, the network draws on its large following, developed over time with steady coverage of political events, to shift focus toward other viewpoints. The call holds particular influence because Meidas has earned trust for quick, evidence-driven analysis and straightforward support of its positions, so its appeal to skip the event carries more impact than one from a lesser-known source. Those taking part are encouraged to view staying away as a deliberate exercise of choice, a decision not to contribute audience figures, potential advertising income, or any sense of validation to remarks that many believe ignore the daily realities people face. By taking the lead here, the network points to a change in how independent progressive voices interact with formal government messages, from responding after the fact to setting the agenda themselves. It also shows the rising power of online-only platforms in guiding public discussion, particularly as conventional television channels proceed to air the speech as usual. Those against the boycott say it splits the national dialogue when agreement could be valuable. But those in favor respond that genuine agreement is impossible amid persistent false information or damaging decisions. Beyond basic support, Meidas supplies the practical tools, streaming setup, outreach efforts, and links with allied groups to turn the boycott into something achievable on a wide level. This careful setup sets the current action apart from earlier objections to State of the Union speeches, raising it to a more organized and noticeable level. People who share this outlook are asked to regard the boycott as an intentional step, not just turning off the TV, which strengthens the point that public attention is something that can be purposefully directed elsewhere. The network stresses repeatedly that heading this boycott centers on responsibility, showing that significant portions of the population demand better standards and will no longer take the yearly address without close examination of what it says and the circumstances around it. They have teamed up with Move On to present the People's State of the Union as an alternative broadcast. Meidas has established an official alliance with Move On, a well-established progressive group with decades of experience to produce and deliver an event meant to coincide directly with the president's official speech. This joint work merges Meidas' skills in creating digital content, handling live streams, and quickly gathering viewers with Move On's wide-reaching community connections, deep knowledge of issues, and track record of managing major campaigns. What emerges is the People's State of the Union, carefully planned alternative programming set to run at the same moment as the White House address, giving audiences an entirely separate collection of perspectives, concerns, and personal experiences. The alliance draws on Move On's capacity to bring in speakers, manage details, and shape the conversation around essential topics including fair wages, medical care availability, border policies, and official responsibility. Working together, the groups form a solid partnership that blends strong online presence with active community organizing. So the alternate program appears not as something on the margins, but as a valid parallel discussion. The People's State of the Union is built to feature immediate analysis, accounts from people directly touched by events, and participation from office holders who decide against attending the formal session. This structure sharply differs from the carefully prepared, single-speaker style of the classic address, trading ceremony for honest descriptions of how policies play out in real life. The alliance rests on a common view that citizens should have access to more than one version of events controlled by the current leadership during a major televised political occasion. MoveOn's role adds established standing and broadens the program's audience beyond Meidas Touch's regular followers into wider circles of engaged citizens. The two handle everything from advertising and technical setup to arranging speakers and keeping viewers involved, so the alternative runs with smoothness and professionalism. This team-up also indicates a stronger connection between newer online media and long-standing activist organizations, each contributing distinct strengths to question prevailing political accounts. Those who watch receive content that values actual experiences over rehearsed language, seeking to show the personal toll of existing approaches while suggesting different paths forward for the nation. Calling it the People's State of the Union highlights the goal of taking back the idea of speaking to the country from ordinary people upward instead of from those in power downward. With this combined effort, Meidas Touch and MoveOn aim to prove that serious discussion about governance can happen independently when official venues no longer match the lived experience of countless citizens. The planning covers scheduling, ease of access, and clear communication to keep the program unified and intentional, not simply a quick reaction. Hosting jointly opens a venue where examination of decisions comes with practical suggestions, individual accounts stand beside informed views, and the lack of the standard speech turns into a chance for something more meaningful. Right now, close to 19 senators and representatives have agreed to skip Trump's address and take part in the Meidas Touch program. An increasing number, around 19 at present, of Democratic senators and House members have openly committed to passing on President Trump's State of the Union and appearing instead at the People's State of the Union organized by Meidas Touch. This collective choice represents an unusual level of unified objection during one of the most prominent events on the presidential calendar. Among those stepping forward are well-known names such as Senator Ed Markey, Senator Jeff Merkley, Senator Chris Murphy, Senator Tina Smith, Senator Chris Van Hollen, along with House representatives like Greg Kaser, Veronica Escobar, Pramila Jayapal, and several more. Their choice arises from serious worries about the administration's handling of border matters, medical care, economic equity, and public trust in government. By staying away from the official event, these members intend to remove the symbolic approval that their presence would give and use their positions at the alternative gathering to speak plainly with people directly affected. The action sends a clear signal that not every representative is prepared to listen to what they consider a distorted or damaging picture of the country's situation. It also makes divisions in Congress more apparent, showing disagreements over the leadership's response to urgent challenges. Those joining plan to deliver straightforward assessments, outline different approaches, and bring forward accounts from government employees, people at the border, and regular citizens touched by presidential directives. With participation already near 19 and likely to increase, this gives the alternative program real political substance, shifting it from a media project to one supported by actual lawmakers. Those organizing expect the count of lawmakers involved to rise considerably, perhaps reaching 30 to 40. Leaders from Meidas Touch and MoveOn foresee a continued rise in senators and representatives signing on to the boycott and the People's State of the Union. From the present figure of about 19, they believe the number may reach 30 or possibly 40 as the date of February 24th approaches. This outlook comes from continued discussions with congressional staff, deepening dissatisfaction with current policies, and the forward motion created by the first commitments. As more office holders see the boycott build support with limited negative fallout, others seem more ready to join. Such an increase would count among the biggest organized absences from a State of the Union in quite some time, pointing to broad discomfort among Democrats with the current course of national decisions. The organizers stress that every additional participant boosts the event's standing and scope, allowing wider coverage of regions and topics. They keep track of new announcements and intend to keep supporters informed as figures change. This expected growth shows confidence that the alternate program provides a more secure and genuine setting for representatives to connect with voters directly, instead of quietly accepting the standard presentation. Reaching double or nearly double the current number would firmly establish the People's State of the Union as a strong alternative to the customary speech. The People's State of the Union is scheduled for February 24th, starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, although those running it mention it might begin a bit earlier to allow for speakers and maintain steady pacing. The schedule is set intentionally to match the official address, offering viewers a clear side-by-side option to select over the president's remarks. The full program will stream live only on the Meidas Touch YouTube channel, taking advantage of its sizable following and dependable broadcast system to connect with many people without depending on regular TV stations. Using YouTube makes it open to everyone, free access for anyone online, with chances to comment live and spread segments quickly. The chosen timing and date underline the purpose of delivering live alternative content rather than waiting to respond later. Materials promoting the event stress starting on time, but allow some leeway for a natural beginning, matching its blend of community roots and careful execution. Viewers are asked to note the date and join live, since the broadcast will include spontaneous exchanges, individual experiences, and direct interaction not found in the structured congressional format. This arrangement places the People's State of the Union as a prompt, audience-focused response, open to large numbers. The program will include not just Democratic office holders, but also government employees, immigrants, and ordinary citizens seriously affected by policies from the Trump administration. The People's State of the Union extends past politicians by placing front and center the experiences of people bearing the heaviest burden from present government actions. Alongside Democratic senators and representatives, it features federal employees who have dealt with layoffs, reprisals at work, or pressure to follow disputed orders. Immigrants who have gone through family divisions, time in detention, or focused enforcement will tell their own stories from the platform. Regular people hit by economic measures, reductions in health coverage, or threats to basic rights will add their views, providing direct insight into higher expenses, lost benefits, and neighborhood effects. This varied selection works to make policy discussions feel personal, swapping numbers for genuine tales of difficulty and strength. Organizers place these individuals first to reveal the actual outcomes frequently downplayed in formal presentations. Bringing in people outside elected roles builds a wider, truer representation that stands in clear opposition to the hierarchical style of the usual State of the Union. Including public servants with immigrants and everyday residents aims to point out common difficulties among varied groups and create greater understanding and concern among those watching. This method keeps the content welcoming and tied to real circumstances instead of staged politics. There is simply no record in recent American history of an effort this large and well-arranged taking place at the same time as a president's State of the Union. This organized avoidance and separate broadcast differ completely from any documented case in contemporary U.S. politics. Although single lawmakers have sometimes missed the address for reasons like health, objection, or conflicts, no earlier action has brought together roughly 19, with more possible, congressional members to collectively pass on the speech and join one unified parallel program run by a media outlet and advocacy organization. Earlier objections to presidential speeches usually stayed within afterward analysis, statements on the floor, or minor symbolic skips without a combined alternative featuring live remarks from both representatives and regular people. The People's State of the Union unites participation from lawmakers, immediate streaming on a leading progressive outlet, and organized accounts from those hurt by policies, forming a full alternative that happens simultaneously. Past instances of boycotts or exits during joint sessions have been uncommon, separate, and missing this degree of structure, outreach, and technical support. The extent here, wide distribution through YouTube, cooperation between an internet-based source and a major advocacy body, along with expanding involvement from Congress, marks it as truly without equal. It demonstrates changing patterns where non-traditional media can now support major political actions that directly confront official accounts as they unfold, not merely afterward. Joy Reid and Katie Phang are set to serve as hosts for the People's State of the Union. Joy Reid and Katie Phang will lead the People's State of the Union, lending their well-regarded standing as clear-thinking, forward-leaning observers of politics to direct the proceedings. Joy Reid, recognized from her time at MSNBC and her direct examination of issues involving race, governance, and decisions, brings skill in guiding important exchanges and eliciting open views from varied participants. Katie Phang, moving from courtroom work to respected analysis of legal matters, supplies careful explanations of how policies affect rights, the Constitution, and actions by the executive branch, with emphasis on responsibility and fairness. Having both on board keeps the tone serious but approachable, mixing individual accounts with necessary background and assessment. In their roles, they will present speakers, manage shifts between office holders and those affected, ask focused questions, and hold the discussion on main subjects such as financial strain, problems with border enforcement, medical care availability, and openness in government. Their participation shows the event's gravity and works to draw viewers already familiar with their reporting. Placing the program in their hands allows organizers to offer a well-produced, compelling option that differs from the rigid single-direction style of the official address, all while keeping sincerity and importance in each part. The presentation includes sharp objections to practices by ICE and Border Patrol, pushes to eliminate both organizations, and mentions of documented mistreatment in holding centers, drawing from ProPublica investigations. The content offers direct challenges to how ICE and Border Patrol carry out duties under this administration, portraying their methods as short on openness and oversight. It points to requirements for agents in masks, absence of body-worn cameras, lack of court-approved warrants, and even deployment near voting locations, describing these as overreaching and meant to intimidate. The position calls for complete removal of the two agencies, claiming they have caused harm, frightened neighborhoods, and committed violations of basic rights that should lead to legal consequences for those responsible. More measured democratic proposals, seeking only cameras, required warrants, no agents at polls, and no masks, are still firmly opposed by those backing the current leadership. Special attention goes to reporting by ProPublica that revealed harsh realities inside detention sites, taking away children's artwork and messages to stop outside awareness, poor medical attention causing life-threatening situations, including a 2-month-old baby with breathing issues who nearly died from delayed care before swift deportation, tainted drinking supplies, threats of hunger, common sickness, and several fatalities. These reports paint the centers as places of deep hardship, sometimes compared in severity to camps holding large groups, emphasizing widespread harshness directed at at-risk migrants, especially young ones. The objections link these methods to larger patterns of concentrated control, refusing to treat such approaches as acceptable. The Meidas Touch network is approaching 6 million subscribers, a mark that those involved see as carrying special meaning before the counter-event to the State of the Union. Audiences get a straightforward, ongoing invitation to subscribe right away to push past that figure and show unified backing for the outlet's efforts. This encouragement presents growing the channel as a public display of opposition and unity against the administration's communications. Beyond that, the network highlights its Substack at MeidasPlus.com, inviting people to sign up for more detailed written pieces, special information, and ongoing interaction outside video format. The Substack acts as an additional avenue for continued conversation on topics tied to the boycott and program. Lastly, fresh items supporting democratic principles are now offered at store.meidastouch.com with an open call to look through and acquire pieces that let supporters show their alignment openly. These requests for subscribing, joining the Substack, and getting merchandise work to expand both reach and real participation, changing watchers into engaged contributors to the larger push for questioning dominant accounts and lifting other perspectives. To close out this important look, we have reviewed how the Meidas Touch network, together with Move On, is doing far more than calling for a boycott. It is starting a broad national exchange via the People's State of the Union, beginning with commitments from close to 20 lawmakers, set to possibly reach 30 or 40, and moving to the live broadcast on February 24th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. This effort represents a courageous, landmark response to approaches that have damaged government employees, immigrants, and regular citizens. With Joy Reid and Katie Fang guiding, it brings forward perspectives often silenced in standard accounts, revealing mistreatment in ICE and Border Patrol operations as shown in ProPublica reporting, and pressing for greater responsibility. This goes beyond simple disagreement. It serves as a strong call for openness, fairness, and a system that genuinely works for everyone, underscoring that true progress starts by prioritizing those who feel the effects most over those holding authority. Thank you for being here on The Desk, your place for straightforward, thoughtful reporting that gives you the tools to get involved. If what you've heard strikes a chord, please subscribe now to keep up with the developments that count, sign up for our Substack at MeidasPlus.com for added depth, and check out the new pro-democracy items in the store to display your principles. Together, we can strengthen this effort. Your input truly matters. Leave a comment. What single policy shift would you want raised at the People's State of the Union?